Why the graveyard shift is never talked about. This is the story of Mark, who took on the role of night security guard at Shady Brook Cemetery. Let's dive into the story. Shady Brook Cemetery has always been a peaceful spot for daytime reflection, but when I took on the job as the night security guard there, I stepped into a different spine-chilling world. In the beginning, the first few nights were quiet, but as I settled into my nightly routine, strange and hair-raising things began to happen. One moonless night, I clearly heard faint whispers, like voices carried on the breeze. These whispers didn't stop. They got louder and more persistent. On another occasion, I glimpsed shadowy figures darting between the gravestones, moving in a way that was eerie and downright unnatural. Over time, the atmosphere in that cemetery became suffocating, heavy with an unseen malevolent presence. It felt like something was watching me, but not something human, something otherworldly. Then one fateful night, I saw it, an apparition hovering above a long-forgotten grave. It took the shape of a woman in a tattered wedding dress, her face hidden by a ghostly veil. Her mournful wail filled the air, sending shivers down my spine, and I felt frozen in place. I couldn't break away from her gaze as she floated closer to me. Panic surged through me, and I ran, racing through the maze-like paths of Shady Brook Cemetery. But the ghostly bride pursued me relentlessly, her sorrowful cries growing louder. At last, I reached the cemetery gates, but they refused to open. It was as if the very earth conspired to keep me trapped inside. With nowhere left to run, I turned to face the vengeful spirit. As she drew nearer, her spectral face twisted into an expression of agony and fury. Just as her ghostly hand was about to touch me, lightning sliced through the night sky, thunder roared, and the ghostly figure dissolved into thin air, leaving behind an eerie and haunting silence. Even today, I can't make sense of what I witnessed in Shady Brook Cemetery, and the terror of that night still haunts my dreams. This is the story of a daring adventurer who decided to spend a night inside the spooky Hamilton Mausoleum at the Shady Brook Cemetery. The mausoleum, known for its eerie reputation, would become the setting for a night of bone-chilling experiences. Let's dive into the story. In a quiet, forgotten cemetery on the outskirts of a peaceful town, you'd find the spooky Hamilton Mausoleum, known for its eerie reputation. On a dare from my friends, I gathered the courage to spend a night inside. As I went into the old, decaying building, the air had a bad smell. The old clock struck midnight, and a creepy chill settled over me. That's when I heard it, a sad cry, like a woman's voice coming from deep within the crypt. I was scared to death when a bony hand suddenly shot out, and a terrifying scream echoed through the room. I stumbled back, dropping my flashlight in my panic. I struggled to pick it up, but when I did, the body had disappeared, leaving behind a scary feeling that hung in the air. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath me, and the walls of the mausoleum seemed to move closer, as if they had a mind of their own. I frantically clawed at the walls, fighting to get out. Just when it felt like I might be crushed, the walls gave way. This is the story of Thomas, the dedicated caretaker of Willowbrook Cemetery, a quiet little town's resting place, hidden beneath the shade of an ancient oak tree. Here is how Thomas explains his story. In our quiet little town, beneath the shade of an ancient oak tree, you'd find Willowbrook Cemetery. It might look peaceful, but it hides a spine-tingling story about its caretaker, Thomas. Thomas dedicated years of his life to looking after Willowbrook, getting to know its secrets like no one else. One cool autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Thomas went about his usual nightly tasks, but this night was different. He noticed a strange mound of earth near the oak tree, a grave that hadn't been there just a day ago. A creepy feeling washed over him as he approached it. Getting closer to the mysterious grave, the air got colder and thick mist wrapped around him. Thomas reached the grave, hesitating before gathering the courage to open it. Inside, he found something that left him completely shocked. A mummified body stuck in eternal torment. Suddenly, the corpse's eyes snapped open, blazing with anger, not emptiness. A bony, ice-cold hand shot out and grabbed Thomas's wrists with unbelievable strength. A piercing scream filled the night as Thomas fought to break free. But the mummy's voice, sounding like it came from the darkest depths, revealed ancient secrets and long-forgotten sins, each word cutting into Thomas's very soul. The cemetery seemed to come alive, with ancient oak trees creaking and tombstones almost whispering the names of the long-lost. Thomas felt his life force draining away, terror taking over. Summoning one last burst of strength, he managed to pull free and collapse onto the ground. With the arrival of the first light of dawn, the ghostly figure retreated into its unmarked grave. The mist disappeared, and Willowbrook Cemetery returned to its peaceful appearance. However, Thomas knew he was forever changed, haunted by that eerie night when he confronted a spectral presence beneath the old oak tree. This is the story of a group of friends who found themselves in a chilling and unexpected encounter on a moonless night in the town of Oak Ridge. On a moonless night in Oak Ridge, a beautiful town known for its charming streets and close-knit community, a group of friends decided to visit a long-forgotten graveyard at the town's edge. This cemetery had been abandoned for years, with tombstones cracked and hidden by overgrown weeds, a sign of the town's forgotten history. As they walked deeper into the graveyard, an eerie feeling surrounded them. It was quiet, except for the sound of gravel underfoot. The full moon cast an eerie light on the tombstones, and they kept seeing strange shadows out of the corners of their eyes. They came across an old mausoleum with partially open doors, and despite their unease, curiosity got the better of them, so they went inside. It smelled musty, with cobwebs hanging down over ancient coffins like ghostly curtains. But what truly scared them was a pile of fresh dirt in one corner, as if someone had hastily dug a grave in the middle of this forgotten cemetery. It sent shivers down their spines. Terrified, they decided to leave, but just as they neared the exit, they heard a disturbing noise, the unmistakable sound of digging coming from outside. They peeked through a narrow gap in the door and saw a chilling scene. A lone figure digging a grave under the cold moonlight. The man looked skinny, his clothes ragged and covered in mud. A wide-brimmed hat hid his face as he dug with an unnatural intensity. As they watched in fear, he suddenly stopped and stared at them with wild eyes. He dropped his shovel and began walking towards the mausoleum with eerie determination. Panic gripped the friends as they hurriedly left, their footsteps echoing through the graveyard. But the man chased them relentlessly, his creepy laughter echoing in the night. When they finally reached the town's edge, breathless and terrified, they looked back to see the man standing at the graveyard entrance, his gaze fixed on them. Then, with one last bone-chilling laugh, he vanished into the darkness. The friends never went back to that graveyard, and the incident stayed with them. The image of the late-night gravedigger haunted their dreams, a reminder that even in the quietest towns, darkness might be lurking just beneath the surface, ready to emerge in the dead of night. This is the story of a group of friends who visited the Blackwood Cemetery. Little did they know that their curiosity would lead them into a nightmarish ordeal they could have never imagined. Blackwood Cemetery, known for its creepy stories and strange happenings, drew the attention of a group of friends one fateful night. Their curiosity got the best of them as midnight approached, and suddenly, the ground shook beneath them, and skeletal hands burst from the graves. They were terrified beyond belief and ran for safety into an old mausoleum. But to their horror, the walls of the mausoleum started closing in on them. Panic took hold until they noticed an old inscription on the ceiling, faintly glowing with an eerie light. Amidst the mausoleum's tremblings, a strange portal appeared, leading them into a nightmarish version of the cemetery. With no other options, they reluctantly stepped through the portal, finding themselves in a horrifying version of the cemetery. A massive, shadowy figure beckoned to them, and as they got closer, it let out a bone-chilling scream that sent shivers down their spines, wrapping them in darkness. In the real world, the sun eventually rose over Blackwood Cemetery, but their friends had vanished without a trace, seemingly consumed by the otherworldly terrors that lurked there. Even today, Blackwood Cemetery remains a place of unimaginable fear, serving as a stark reminder that some mysteries are best left untouched, and that the line between the living and the dead is more fragile than we realize. This is the story of three friends who, one eerie night, dared to visit a desolate graveyard, defying the warnings of the townsfolk. In the heart of the desolate graveyard, three friends embarked on a dare one chilling night. Ignoring the whispers of the townsfolk, they ventured deep into the necropolis. As the witching hour struck, a spectral figure emerged, cloaked in a tattered robe. Frozen in terror, they watched as the ghostly presence beckoned them forward. Its voice, a mournful lament, echoed through their very souls. Ignoring their fear, they approached, drawn by an irresistible force. Suddenly, the apparition's visage contorted into a grotesque snarl. It lunged, chilling fingers passing through one friend's chest. His screams pierced the night as he collapsed lifelessly to the ground. The other two friends fled, but the malevolent spirit pursued relentlessly, each step bringing it closer. With every desperate breath, they knew they were haunted by a vengeful force that would never release its grip.